My family kicked me out at 16, and I lived in a tent. Never imagined this would be my story. Not a story I ever wanted to share. But here I am. Kicked out at 16, I spent months living in a tent. It all began when I was a teen, still finding myself. Growing up, I always felt like the black sheep of the family. My strict parents and changing twin sister created distance. She was always the perfect child, and I was the rebel, constantly questioning everything. Grades dropped. I got in trouble, becoming someone they never expected. One evening, after a long building argument, my mom snapped. I was labeled a disappointment, ruining family image, unwelcome. My dad, usually quiet, remained silent. My best friend's sister turned her back on me. She had already been drifting, siding with our parents. "Leave. We don't want you here anymore," my mother said, her voice cold, final. I didn't argue. I knew it was pointless. At 16, I packed a bag, took my sleeping bag, and left. No one stopped me. My sister just watched me walk out silently. I heard the door slam shut behind me. I had very little. Only a small backpack with clothes and no plan. I ended up in a park pitching a tent in secrecy. For weeks I slept there, lost in the situation. I avoided calling anyone. Too embarrassed. I didn't want to reach out to my parents. I was furious with them and myself. Living in a tent was hard. Surviving on a few bucks, eating cheap and sometimes nothing. I worked part-time washing dishes, but it wasn't enough. But somehow, I made it through. Looking back now, it's crazy to think about how I survived that time. But it also changed me. I learned to rely on myself, and I grew up fast. Eventually, I found a better job and a small apartment. Over time, I started rebuilding my life, without my family. A couple of years later, my sister reached out to me. She apologized for how things went down, but honestly, I'm not sure we'll ever have the same relationship again. I've moved on. I've learned that sometimes you have to walk away from toxic people, even if they're family. If you're reading this and going through something similar, please know that it gets better. You are stronger than you think.